to make sure that we're recording. Yes. Okay, last time we ended off discussing the Machlokas Rashi Tosas and Beitza, where Rashi learned over there that it can't be a nen if the Sugi of the Beitza and Chavdal of Beis, which I guess you all saw, was when a Nachri Shehevi Doran the Israel, he brought a gift to a Jew from Chutz L'Chon, and if Yesh B'Minin B'Mechuber, if it's a fruit, it could have picked on Yom Tov, then it's also Abekdei Shiyasu, until the amount of time would it take to pick it after Yom Tov, and then we have a shiloh whether it's the amount of time it takes to pick it, or picking it, with which is the malacha, plus the amount of time it would take to actually bring it to the Jew, which could add hours onto the picking time. So Rashi over there was the shita that held that it's going to be mutter b'bechdei shiyasu on motzi Yom Tov Rishon, even if there's 2 days Yom Tov, there's Yom Tov Sheni, it's still going to be mutter b'chdei shiyasu on motzi Yom Tov Rishon, although it's still Yom Tov Sheni. And because according to Rashi, the yesod of the Isser is an Isser Hana, that what Chazal Aserd, if a goy does a malacha for a yid on Shabbos Yom Tov, is an Isser Hana, not to be nehne from Maleches Shabbos and Yom Tov, which we'll call that in the Lashon Gemara the Meiser Shabbos or Meiser Yom Tov. It's a Meiser that was done on Shabbos Yom Tov. You can't be nehne from that, so it's also until the amount of time it would take after Shabbos Yom Tov to do it, so that you're no longer nehne from what was done on that day. So according to Rashi, even though it happens to be Yom Tov Sheni now, you couldn't have done it Yom Tov Sheni either, but L'maisa, you're not nehne anymore from what was done in Yom Tov Rishon if you waited b'chtei shiyasu, the amount of time would have taken to do it. So it's mutter. And Rashi brings down a huge vikuach he had with other Rishonim, and he cited, he didn't budge Rashi from Rishita, and he found that other Goinim from the previous generation held like him. He stayed with the Shita. Tosas, however, there is cholek very strongly. The Tosas held that since the Tam, there's betzim cholek on this Tam of Rashi, that it's not just an Isser Hana, was to be not be nene what happened on Shabbos or Yom Tov, but the Isser is not to be nene in order that you shouldn't ask a goy to do it for you again. You shouldn't continue to ask goyim to do things for you on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So as long as you're nene, you're marviach from the fact that he did it for you on Yom Tov Rishon, even though time has passed that you could have done it in Yom Tov Rishon, Sof Kol Sof you couldn't have done it in Yom Tov Sheni either. So if you're allowed to be nene from what was done on Yom Tov Rishon, then you're nene from the fact that you can be nene from a Yom Tov Sheni, something you couldn't have done otherwise, so that you still have a good enough impetus or a good enough reason to ask a goy to do it for you on Yom Tov Rishon in order that you should have the Hana on Yom Tov Sheni. So you ask him to do more things on Yom Tov Rishon next time around for the sake of Yom Tov Sheni as well. You're marviach at least that entire day. So Tosas therefore holds that it's asur until b'chtei shiyasu on motzi Yom Tov Sheni, because you have to get out of the realm, out of the period of time that you would have not been marviach in a way that you're going to come to ask him to do more things for you. So obviously, so to stick on Machlokas in Rashi and Tosas over there, if the Isser b'chtei shiyasu, and therefore that reflects on the Isser on the Yom Tov itself, is because that's b'chtei shiyasu is an extension of Yom Tov itself, just the amount of time, is the Isser mitzad not to be nene from Melechas Shabbos and Yom Tov, like Rashi, or is it in order that Shema Yomer Lo, that and therefore it's going to be asur till Motzi Yom Tov Sheni. So now, taking that Machlokas back to our Tosas over here at Der Maskell V'im Bishvil, the Tosas that says if a goy does something for Yisrael, it's asur. The Kol Yisrael, it's asur not only for the Jew that he did it for, but also for the Kol Yisrael. So Tosas is coming keneged the Shitas of Baal Amor in Beitza, and the Ram brings it down here as well, that it's only asur for the one that it was done for. So we ended up last year with a kasha that the Chorah, and it seems to be a remnant from the Rishonim and maybe from Achronim, that what's the Machlokas Tosas in the Baal Amor, if it's asur l'kol or asur only for the one that was done for. But Pashtus, it would be that according to the Baal Amor, the Isser is Shema Yomer Lo, that you might come to ask him, that's like Tosas and Beitza. And therefore, it should only be also to the one that was done for, because if a goy went and did a malacha for Reuven, so Mechatesi, the Shimon, should think that he's to do malacha for him as well. And therefore, it's only going to be also for the one that was done for. Only the one, because the chashash is Shema Yomerlo, and we're only kosher for the one that got it, that received it, the hana, that Shema Yomerlo. Mashenkin Tosis is asering for everybody. That goes well with the svara of Isser Hana. Once it's also for hana, it's also for everybody. That's the pashas, the machlokas between Tosis and the Balmor. But if so, it comes out to be a tremendous steer in Tosis. The Tosis is the Shita in Beitza, the whole Shema Yomerlo. In Tosis over here, L'chor is holding like Rashi that it's in Isser Hana, and that's why it should be also the kol. So, to explain Tosis, that he's so certain himself, which the Shita that he says all over Shas, that the Isser is Shema Yomerlo. So I think we're forced to say that the Pshat in Tosis is not, the fact that he asers the kol, not like the Balamor, is not a sodistic machlokas between them, whether it's an Isser Hana or it's an Isser Amira Shema Yomerlo. Tosis holds over here like he holds over there. It's also Shema Yomerlo. It's really more like a more basic, not basic, but more like we'll call it a balabatish machlokas between them, not a limdish machlokas, but it's just a more balabatish machlokas, whether if a goy performs a malacha for the sake of Reuven, one Jew, so then are we kosher that all Jews will think that once a goy revealed his nachonus to perform a malacha for any Jew, then he'll do it for me as well. Maybe he'll do it for me as well. So the Balamor holds no, that we're only kosher for what actually mamash happened. We have to stretch it that far. And Tosis is just more machwir to say that as long as Shimon sees that the goy did it for Reuven, the Shimon will say, "Oh, can you do something for me as well?" That's the chash. And that's
even though Tosis and Shabbos says Hana.
Pardon?
Tosis and Shabbos mentions Hana specifically.
Well, we thought that's what Tosis meant to Aser L'Kol Yisrael, but he doesn't actually. He actually does not mention it. It doesn't say the words Hana over here, so it's not difficult.
In the Tosis it says Hana in Shabbos.
Also lehenos, but not that it's an Isser Hana. In other words, you can't be netted from it. Why? Because it's an Isser Hana, period, or because you might come to ask him to do something. Now, does it stay begetter Isser Hana and that's it? Or do we always look at what he's going to ask him to do? So Tosis in Beitza clearly learns that we always continue to look at what he's going to ask you to do. You don't just look at it at it doesn't end with a getter of an Isser Hana, period, and then which comes out to be a kula. Actually, it would be over there a kula, because over there Rashi is, because of that is mater doing nene and yom tasheni, because so if you're not nene, it won't happen after rishon anymore. And so there it's a kula. Over here it would come out to be a chumrah that we're going to ask for everybody, as opposed to if like Balamor says, if you have that svara, then it's only going to be also for the one they did it for, not for everybody else. But
I guess those chumras and kulas each way.
Right. That's what will come out. But Tosis, however, we're going to have to say that in order to not be a steer in Tosis, the Tosis actually does not say the words then Isser Hana. It's also lehenos in order that, and you see clearly from Tosis continuation, Tosis is going like he said over there, because Tosis asked the kasha that why is mavashal b'Shabbos v'shogeg yochal? Why are you allowed to be neder from what happened if a Jew cooked on Shabbos b'shogeg? So why can you be neder from it? So Tosis answers that's different, because over there you're not going to ask a Jew to do a malacha of a mezid. You're not going to ask such a thing. So we see that it's all looking into the gedarim of what you're going to ask to do or not. So and then Tosis ends off, which something we'll speak about a little bit more, I guess, in either continuation today or maybe the next year, that Tosis asks a kasha at the end. Once we're going with this, and Tosis, then we'll have to qualify what Tosis does at the end. Tosis at the end asks a kasha that what about the Nachar Shabal Chabois, the Mishnah in Kuchaf Aleph says that if a goy comes to your house, catches on fire, and a goy comes to put it out, you don't have to stop him. You're allowed to let him go ahead and be Mechaber the Eish. even though you're going to be nene from what he did, and you're going to walk into your house, you'll be nene from, you're going to continue to eat the food in the house that didn't get destroyed through the fire. So you're nene from the malachas akum on Shabbos. They did it for the sake of Yisrael. So Tosfos gives an answer there. The Chiyamrina denochia daita na sheikh avid. When do you say, the Gemara said over there that the reason that you're allowed to be nene is because the nochia is a daita na sheikh avid. He really did it for his own sake, because he knows that if he puts it out, then he'll get some kind of a favor or a payment from the Jew eventually, even though he didn't specifically ask for it or wasn't told that. But he knows the Jew will owe him a big favor. So he's really doing it for the sake of the favor that's owed to him. That's called a daita nafshe. And Tosfos says that we only say a daita nafshe. We only say that svora with kibui ukiyotzabu, things like putting out a fire or other things like it. She'en yisrael nene b'maisa hanochi. You're not actually directly nene from what the guy did. You're not the kibui itself. There's no hana from. It's only a side benefit that now that you put out the ish, now mamela you have other things to be nene from, but the kibui itself you weren't nene from. Here, let's say the goy lit the fire for you, so now you can read. So the Guf Yisrael is being nene from what the Nachri did. Now you can sit and read. You were in the dark before, or now you didn't have a light in the room. Now you can sit and eat. You had no light before. So the Guf Yisrael is nene from what the Nachri did. So when we saw it last week, we were thinking that what you see again from Tosfos L'chora, it's an Isser Hana, and part of the qualification of what's called Isser Hana is if the Guf Yisrael is nene from it. Now we're going to have to explain a little differently that Tosfos is not qualifying the Isser Hana. Tosfos is saying that when are we choshesh that a Jew is going to ask a goy to do it again, to do another malacha? That's if he got so much hana from it that Guf Yisrael nene mimenu. If you got that level of hana, then we're choshesh that you're going to ask a goy to perform more malachos for you, because it's all about that. It's all about what you're going to ask a goy to do, as opposed to saying that's just an Isser Hana. Okay. That final teretz of Tosfos we'll have to talk more about a little later, because it's big nafkaminas on how we understand that Tosfos. But just so we're ending off now with a very sodistic machlokas between Rashi and Tosfos. We're answering up Tosfos over here. There's not a steer to Tosfos and Beitza. And the shittas of Tosfos all over is going to be that the bottom line of the Isser to be nene from what a goy did for you on Shabbos and Yom Tov is in order that you shouldn't come to ask him to do more, perform more malachim. According to Rashi, it's just a straight Isser Hana, and you just can't be nene, period. And we have common nafkaminas. We'll see more nafkaminas as we go along. I just want to throw out a question. And Rashi himself, then, if it's not based on what you're going to ask him to do, the Isser Hana, so then what is the yesod of the Isser? What's the shorish of this Isser to be nene from what a goy did for Yom Tov or Shabbos? So what I was thinking is maybe the two possible explanations, which will have big ramifications of how we understand Rashi. The Rambam, in the beginning of the 6th parak of Shabbos, says, "Asur lomar legoy lasus lanu malacha b'Shabbos, al pi she'enu mitzuva ala Shabbos." Even though a goy is not mitzuva ala Shabbos, so we spoke last week that only eved v'ama, only if you have a slave, an actual slave you own, is mitzuva on your Shabbos. That Avdacha v'Amascha, that's a din deraisa, but that's only Eved v'Ama. But every other goy is not mitzuva on Shvis Shabbos. Still, you're not allowed to ask him to do for your malacha. It's not just an Isser Amir on Shabbos. Even if you asked him before Shabbos, it's still Asr. Even though you're not going to benefit from him on Shabbos, only after Shabbos, you still can't ask him to do a malacha for you on Shabbos. Why is that so? Says the Rambam. This is an Isser D'Rabbanan. Divrei Sofrim, the Rambam means Midrabbanan. Kedei shelo tiyeh Shabbos kala b'eineihen v'yavohu lasos ba'atzman. In order that Shabbos should not be a davar kal b'eineihen for us, for Yidden. If we're going to ask Goyim to do whatever we want on Shabbos, Shabbos itself becomes more kal, and we're going to end up being machal Shabbos ourselves. So it's really not about what the Goy does, that we shouldn't be expanded to the Goy doing more. like the lashon of Tosfos was that Shema Yavo Lahosif B'Shula, you're going to maybe the goy will come to he'll ask you to do more, or etc. But Rambam is saying it's really a gzera. Now, keep in mind that the Rambam here is talking about the Isser Amira Legoy. We last week in the beginning we said that there are three areas of this Isser Amir Lakum. One is the Etzem Amira, and the second is the Isser Hana from the Amira, and the third is Marasayan. Here the Rambam is talking about the Isser of the Amira itself, if you come to ask him to do it. So how do we know what the Rambam would hold about the Pshat and the Isser Hana? If you didn't ask him to do it, like in our Mishnah, Kuchaf Beis, there was never an Amira. You never asked the Goy to do anything. The Goy there's two choices. There was either the Goy did it for himself, or on his own, he did it for a Jew. But there was never any situation of asking him to do anything in our Mishnah. And we're discussing the Isser Hana when a Goy performs a malacha for a Jew when he didn't ask him to do anything. He just did it b'shvil Yisrael. But I think we can infer that from the next Rambam in Halacha Beis. The Rambam says, Goy she'asa malacha mi'atzmo b'Shabbos. If he did it, performed a malacha on his own, not without asking him, in b'shvil Yisrael, also, so it goes to all the Tanaim then. If he did it for Yisrael, for not, for Hesia, etc., it doesn't give any new explanations of why it's usher. He just goes on and includes it in the first halacha. So the Rambam did not add any more explanation to the second halacha when he did it on his own accord, for the sake of Yisrael, and it's usher ba'ana. And the Rambam already gave us an explanation that it shouldn't be Shabbos kal be'enam v'yavo lasas me'atzman. So then the Rambam, I think, is telling us that just like the Isra Amira is that it shouldn't be kal be'enam, we shouldn't do it ourselves. Also, if we're nene from a malacha that a goy did for us on his own accord, but for our sake, it's the same time extends to this as well. That it shouldn't be usher, that it shouldn't be kal be'enenu. We shouldn't come to be mechal Shabbos. If we can be nene from a goy does for us on Shabbos, then the whole Shabbos becomes kal, and we'll, in our own eyes, and we'll start being mechal Shabbos. So with that Rambam's explanation, this really has nothing to do with Amir al-Akum, and it has nothing to do with asking a goy to do more. It's just an independent svora b'fnei atzma that if we are asking a goy or being nene for what a goy does for us, then we'll come to be mechal Shabbos ourselves. So that's what I thought would be pshat and Rashi, that it's if the Isser Hana is independent of Shema Yomerlo, somebody might ask to do more, then the easiest explanation in Rashi will be to say that he's learning like the Rambam, that it's just a svor on its own right, that if you do malacha, or you're nene from the malacha, it's Isser Hana, because if you're nene from that malacha, you come to Mechal Shabbos yourself eventually. That's one way to explain Rashi. I saw from a Rosh Kola in Lakewood, he wrote a piece on this, and he wanted to say a pshat in Rashi, a different pshat in Rashi, based on the Rashba and Erevin, Daf Mem Amud Aleph, that Sugya and Erevin, the Tosfos quotes at the very beginning, that Bechol Ma'ravin about about if a goy brings it in Chutz L'Tchum. So that's Sugya Chutz L'Tchum, which Tosfos was Mechalab between Isser D'Rabbanan and Isser D'Oraisa. Tchum is only D'Rabbanan. That's why it's a mutzah for Shar Yisrael. And that's Sugya. The Rashba over there asks, he brings down Shitas Rashi that it's an Isser Hana, like he says in Beitza, and he asks on Rashi that there's actually another Rashi. I have to find it for you. It spells it out more clearly even. But he asks on Rashi that if it's an Isser Hana, then what's Takab Shatan and Rameir's din? That if in Vashal, B'Shabbos, B'Shogeg, then you're allowed to be nene from it. If you can't be nene from what was done from Ma'aser Shabbos and Ma'aser Yom Tov, so then what's Bishlema according to Tosfos? Tosfos answered that there's no Chash Sheva Yomerlo. If a Jew performs a malacha b'shogeg on Shabbos, there's no Chash Sheva Yomerlo to do a malacha b'mezid. You're not going to ask a Jew; no one's going to listen to you to go and do a malacha d'oraisa on Shabbos. So if it's totally in Sheva Yomerlo, then we have a good answer. But in Rashi, that it's an Isser Hana, So then what? Then if so for Sof, how could you be an from what was done on Shabbos? Or the Kash comes back on Rashi, right? So the Rashba says, he goes back and forth about it between Tosfos and Rashi. The Rashba in Erevin says, Kedivri Rashi nira Iker. He holds like Rashi. The Rashi is the right shot. What about Navasha b'Shabbos? Lo kasha. The Kevish Nases Malacha b'Shogeg Lekal Amigzar ba'Amidi. Dafagav the Sharish Lu b'Shogeg Lo Asu leMeved lachatchila u'Amezid Hilkach Hekilu ba'Hanos Malacha Kazu. So the Rashba is saying a tremendous chiddush in Rashi that even according to Rashi, that it's an Isser Hana and the getter is an Isser Hana, but it stems from the same place as Tosfos holds. It stems from Echshash Shem Yomerlo. Not like I said in the Rambam that it's Sora b'fnei atzma that the Jew himself is to be Mekel on Shabbos. No, it's like Tosfos. It stems from the same Sora, Shem Yomerlo. And there's no chash that a Jew does malacha b'shogeg, Shem Yomerlo to do malacha b'mezid. A malacha nasai de goy, you can be mezalzel and it'll ask more. Then they are machmir shel yenem imena ad kadesh yasa b'chol. In other words, it comes out like this. The Rashba is basically saying, the way that he explains it, I think he's right, is that, so Rabbi Barnett in Liquid, I think he's right in the Pshat in the Rashba and Rashi is that it stems from the same place. Both Rashi and Tosfos hold that the Isser Hana, Malachas Goy, all stem from the Kshash that you'll be Omer Lo. But the question is, once they had that Kshash, does it just remain Begetter Kshash? It remains a Begetter Gzera that we always look at the Shemer Yomer Lo, or we find often in Halacha and often by Yisrael D'Rabbanan that there might be a Tam Ladavar, but because of the Tam, they made a Getter. They created a Getter. They created a definition, a mahus, a definition, of the. They didn't continue always to look at the Kshash because every case is going to be different. How much Kshash is there or there not? Since it's an overall Kshash, overall Mokum to be Gozer, so then they put a clear one-time Getter that goes across the board no matter what. And the Getter that they put to it, according to Rashi, because of the Kshash Shem Ramalo, is they qualified it and they magdir it, they defined it as an Isser Hana. So in other words, Tosfos, it never got to the next stage of defining it as an Isser Hana. It just remained as a Kshash Shem Ramalo. And according to Rashi, it became a Getter of an Isser Hana. Now, once they put a Getter on it, so there could be Chomer Zen Kula to that. In other words, true, it might have stemmed from the fact that Shem Ramalo, so now we have an Achmina, let's say, on Yom Tesheni, that according to Rashi, that they put a getter to it, that it's an Isser Hana. So since Sof Kol Sof, you're not being nene from it because you waited B'chtei Shiyasu, I'm not Yom Rishon. It's mutter now. And Tosfos always know, since the time of the Gzera, and not only the time of the Gzera, but the getter, the definition of the Gzera, it remains Shem Yomalo. So then, if I'm benefiting from the fact that I get a Yom Tesheni, there's still a Kshash Shem Yomalo. And vice versa, there could be other Nachminas over here, and in our case over here. So now this Machlokas, there's two ways of explaining Rashi. Two ways to understand Rashi, I think, is going to be tremendous Machlokas of Poskim, of Chornim and Poskim. And we'll see the following. We'll take a. Okay. First of all, just let's speak about Nachminas lahalacha between Rashi and Tosfos, and these two, and we basically have two sides over here, and then one of the sides has two sides to it, right? Just to summarize what we have a Mish Machlokas Rashi and Tosfos. Is it Isser Hana or a Gzera Shem Yomalo? And then within Rashi, Isser Hana, we have a Machlok, we have two ways of looking at it. And Rashi is the Isser Hana just an Isser Hana on its own right, stands on its own right, or is it stemming from the same Kshash as Shem Yomalo? That's what we're holding right now. So one nafkamina in the surface on between Rashi and Tosfos might be that this Yossi, you brought this up yesterday when we were speaking, and so I was thinking through. I told you I was thinking about what you said, that there's a machlokas of poskim, really seems to machlokas of shonim, that if the gzera of b'chtei shiyasu, how do you calculate that? You calculate it by the amount of time it would take just to do that malacha, or we mentioned before, do you add to it the amount of time that you could benefit from it? So if the malacha was done, I'm in Dallas, it was done in Fort Worth. So and then it got to me from Fort Worth to Dallas. So I have to add in the 45 minutes drive also from Fort Worth to Dallas to make it to be talking nena b'chtei shiyasu, even though that wasn't part of the malacha itself. But Maisa, for me, I was nena for that amount of time. So l'chora, that shaila on the surface, we have to check the shitas and see how it fits. And when we get to that, but the l'chora, this shaila will be totally in this chakir, this malchos Rashi and Tosfos. If the isser is, it shouldn't be nene from malacha Shabbos. So there's a room to say that, okay, there was time that it took for me to actually get it, but the time I took for me to get it has nothing to do with the malacha Shabbos. That's me, the gavra, this person, this Jew. That's when I could be nene from it. But the Maisa, the malachas Shabbos, the Maisa Shabbos was done only took as amount of time as it took to do that malacha on Shabbos. There's no reason to add on to the isser the amount of time Motzei Shabbos for me to get it. Mashenken, if you learn like Tosfos that it's a Gzera Shem Yomerlo, that whatever I'm marviach, that amount of time, even though it might not have been done in Shabbos, Yom Tov, just like Tosfos says, we have to wait till Motzei Yom Tov Sheni, even though I wasn't nene anymore, like Rashi says on Motzei Yom Tov Rishon, but Sof Kol Sof, I'm marviach that time, so I might ask him to do it in order to marviach that amount of time Yom Tov Sheni. Who then I could ask him to do a malacha on Shabbos to marviach that amount of time that it would take for me to not only have the malacha done, but also have it brought to me.
Can you explain that one more time?
I'm saying that if you hold that the isser to be nene is just not to be nene from malacha Shabbos, like Rashi's learning, so then it would just all I could figure into, I could calculate in is the amount of time that it does to actually perform that malacha on Shabbos. There's no reason to add in the amount of time it takes for me to actually receive the benefit of that malacha on Motzei Shabbos. I don't have to wait for the add to the malacha that was done in Shabbos in Fort Worth, the amount of time it takes to get from Fort Worth to Dallas, because that's not part of malacha Shabbos. That's just the technicality of getting it to me. But if I hold that the gzera is Shemar Yomru and it remains a gzera that I'm just going to add, that anytime I'm arviach from the goy doing it for me on Shabbos, then that revach is the reason that I'll ask him to do it again. So let's say he performed it for me and brought it in Fort Worth and brought it to me on Shabbos. So Lamaisa, if I would just wait till after Shabbos, the amount of time, the 5 minutes it takes to do the malacha, but I can do it before the 45 minutes that it takes to bring the malacha from here to there. So then I'm still marviach those 45 minutes. So there's still a good reason to ask him to do it on Shabbos, not to have to wait that long. So this shaila, if you add in the calculation of the hava of the bringing it, the Chora is telling on this machlokas Rashi and Tosfos.
Rebbe?
Yes.
I mean, I think we saw it was in the Ram who clearly says we calculate the time there and back. So do we find anywhere in Tosfos that would, meaning I hear the chiluk, do we find anywhere in Tosfos that would support this? Does he define anywhere how long Kadesh Yaseh is?
So that's the way to check this out more. This is a thought that I had just speaking to yesterday. So I have to check it out. And I'm throwing it out as a possibility. We have to check the Lashonos now and see. I haven't seen any remnants to that yet in Tosfos, but we'll see. I have to check more. And those that go with the sheet of Tosfos, maybe other Rishonim go that way might mention such a thing. And the Ran that does mention it, so I have to see with how the Ran goes also, if he generally holds like Rashi or like Tosfos, and we'll see if the sheets fit in. But in Svara, it makes so much sense that it depends on these two studied. Now, another daf kamina is there's a suffix in the Pri Megadim in a couple places in Shin Chafei and in Reish Ayin Vav. If a mummer, a goy, it's a Jew that's a mummer, the Mechal Shabbos, If he does a malacha on Shabbos for himself, for his own sake, so I might say, so that's a Jew that did a malacha for a Jew, because a mummer is still a Jew. So he has a suffix whether he has a din like he Yisrael that did malacha on Shabbos, that it's mutter for others to be netted from it right immediately after Shabbos. There's no din b'chtei yasu on for a Jew for Motzei Shabbos. The Chazal only instituted b'chtei yasu for goyim that did it, not for Jews that did it. But perhaps part of the reason that they did not institute it for a Jew that did it is because we're never concerned that a Jew will be asked to do it or will do it again. So there's no reason to wait b'chtei yasu because there's no shemer yomerlo, therefore there's no b'chtei yasu. The shalah is with a mumar that is mechal Shabbos keseder, so that he would do it again, or so then if others could be netted from it on Motzei Shabbos immediately, then since this guy is always mechal Shabbos, maybe they'll start asking him to do mechal Shabbos more for them. So that's a suffix to Pri Megadim. Does that apply to a mumar or not?
Would we say?
Sorry.
Would we say that it's more plausible that a Jew would do a mir la'akum, like tell a goy to do something that he knows that the goy is not mitzvah anyways on Melachos Shabbos, whereas if he would tell a Jew to do something, so now he's doing lifnei ivers that would be presumably deoraisa.
Yeah, so
is there any idea that we would be more strict about that?
Yeah, there's definitely a svara like that. There are a few different svaras of why we're not kosher. You're going to ask a Jew to do it. One of them is like you said, and some Rishonim say it's because you don't expect him to listen to you. You might ask him, but you would not expect him to listen to you because you would do more malachas. So according to that time, then I guess the Pri Megadim is mistopic in that time. Then over here, you have every reason to believe he will do it for you. So even another Jew might fall into that. Like, okay, this guy, okay, he's Mechal Shabbos, whatever. So he's Mechal Shabbos anyway. I'll ask him also to do something for me, according to that time. There's something in the Pri Megadim.
So according to what we said with the three overall subject of Mir La'akum, we can't learn that everyone holds to some extent that there's an Amira issue and there's also the end result, the Hanah problem, and really everybody really could potentially hold that there's a problem to ask. You might come to ask a guy for future things because that's the Amira aspect, while opposed to the result is the Isra Hanah after the fact. Not everyone's going to hold like that. So on some extent, on some level.
On some level, the question is, what's the final getter of the Isra? What's the final definition of the Isra? We see from
it's two parts. There's the actual you're saying. There's a difference between when I actually say something to a guy and then when he actually does something for me without me telling him. There's two different avenues. It's two different things. If I ask the guy to do something for me, I'm going to always continue to ask him to do stuff for me if it would be allowed. So everyone should hold that there's a problem with that. Forget about the result. We're worried that the job is going to be kal in your eyes, and as well as you're going to continue to ask him to do favors for you. So everyone should hold like that. And then there's the aspect of when he does it for me without me telling him, now what do I do with the result? Am I allowed to use it or not? It could be also, you're going to continue to do it. And also there's a result of it that is Isra to what was done. We throw in an extra Isra.
Well, you're right that everybody says you can't be nene from it. So, you can't be nene. The question is, and there might be according to the Rashba and Erevin, there might be the same because to begin with, like we said, according to the Rashba and Erevin, that it all stems from the fact that you might be asking to do more. The question is, how do they when Sokol Sochar Chazal define the Isser at the end of the day? How do they define the Isser? Does it just remain a straight Xera like that, or is it we start looking at every case to say is there a Xera here or not? But it did they end that?
I really think it depends on the case. Honestly, I would think it depends on the case. If you ask a guy to do something, really ask him to do something, then there's a problem. If we're worried you're going to ask him to continue to do something, more things for him. And I would say if he does it on his own behalf, for you and having you in mind, then we have to be goes in it because not because you're necessarily going to ask him, but because we're worried about the Hana aspect of it. Because he actually did something for you. There's a result here. He did something.
Yeah, so in that, that's for sure true. That's why we defined. We said our mission is not talking about a case where you did ask him. He did it on his own volition, and now
Right.
you can from it. So Tosus learns the Isser is now because if I can be nena from what he did on his own right, from his own yozma, then if I can be nena from that, then I'll turn around and I will be over the Isser of the Mir La'akum, and I will actually ask him to do more.
Okay,
So,
makes a little more sense. Okay.
Right, that's what Tosus. So there for sure are these two stages. Our mission is not talking about where you asked him, but are you worried you're going to come to that? Or since we are you worried it can come to that, therefore we just made a blanket Isser Hana with its kulas and its chumras, whatever it is. So it's a question of definition now, once they made the zera. Now the Pri Megadim learns that this question of the Jew that does it really depends on the Machlokas Rashi and Tosus. He wants to, it's very interesting, the Pri Megadim, he says that, so basically, like Joey just said, the time of the Pri Megadim says in the final analysis that the time of Shem Yomer Lo by the Jew that he did it for, another Jew, like he did it for himself. The question is, can other Jews be neder from it B'chtei Shiyasu less than B'chtei Shiyasu once Shabbos? So and that will depend on if the Kshash is Shem Yomer Lo, so then that we don't have by Mumar, because no Jews aren't going to ask other Jews that are Mumarim to do Malachos on Shabbos. And therefore there will be no Isser on another Jew to be neder from it immediately after Shabbos. But if the time is you should be neder Malachos Shabbos Yom Tov, then that should apply. Because the Mumar is worse than the case of Rameir's case of Shogeg is one thing. But if a Mumar that does it b'mezid, he knows that he's doing Chal Shabbos, so then Rashi would be masking that there would be an Isser B'chtei Shiyasu. So the Pri Megadim basically is Tola of this Shaila of Mumar and Machovas Rashi and Tosus. So what I want to say is that what do we see from this Pri Megadim? From the fact that Pri Megadim makes this Tliya, he's Tola this Shaila of Mumar on Machovas Rashi and Tosus, l'chora you see that the Pri Megadim learned Pshat and Rashi like we were learning, like with the Rambam, not with the Rashba in Erevin. Meaning that if Bishlema, if the Isser Hana, according to Rashi, is just an Isser B'fnei Atzmo, and it's not totally at all in whether you might ask the person who did it to do it more or not. Just you can't be nena from Ma'aser Shabbos, period. It's an Isser B'fnei Atzmo, not to be nena, shouldn't be Kal Ba'inov and everything. So then the Shaila of Pri Megadim will depend on the Machovas Rashi and Tosus. According to Tosus, Shem Yomer Lo, we don't have that swore by a Mumar. According to Rashi, it shouldn't be neder from what was done, so you can't be neder from what was done. So it's straight up not totally in Machovas Rashi and Tosus. But Pshat and Rashi is like the Rashba, that the Isser Hana stems also according to Rashi from Shem Yomer Lo. So then then the Mumar will be mutter. There would be no Din B'chtei Shiyasu even according to Rashi, because they only made an Isser Hana by somebody that is shaykh by them to say Shem Yomer Lo. Just like the Rashi was coming to answer the case of Rameir of the Melacha B'Shogeg, a Jew that's not a Mumar, that did a Melacha B'Shogeg. There's no, Rashi says Rashi wasn't Gozer and Isser Hana by that person because there was never a Shem Yomer Lo to begin with by that person, because it's a Jew. So the same reason why they wouldn't be there also would not be by a Mumar. So then it would not be, so the Pri Megadim is being told that Machovas Rashi and Tosus would not be true, wouldn't hold up. So Bal Korcha, the Pri Megadim is learning Rashi like we were learning, that it's just a Isser Hana B'fnei Atzma, not depending on Shem Yomer Lo. That's what comes out from the Pri Megadim.
And Rabbi?
Yeah.
There's the reason why is there no Shema Yomer Lo by a Jew? Is that what Joey was saying before, that because of Lifnei Iver, that's why there's no Shema Yomer Lo? Meaning if this guy's known to do malachos, he's a mummer, why do we not say Shema Yomer Lo?
Yeah, because a Jew would never be stam over Lifnei Iver until another Jew do malacha. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's for Pshuta. The same svara that Tosa says by Malacha B'Shogeg, you would never ask another Jew to do Malacha B'Mezid because he did it B'Shogeg. However,
So in such a case, the Tosos would hold that if a mummer does something for you, you can benefit from it?
no.
Because there's no problem of Shemer Yomalo?
No, on the contrary. He wants, the Prima God wants to say that according to Tosos, not only can you not be nended from it, you have to also wait B'Chtei Shiyasu. Even though they generally made B'Chtei Shiyasu only by Goy that did Malacha, and Mummer would be an exception. It would still be an Isser for anybody else to be Nena on Motzi Shabbos until B'Chtei Shiyasu.
And Rashi would hold it to Mutter right away?
Oh, whoa, one second. No, it would be. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, the other way around. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mixed that up. The Tosis will be there will be no Din B'Chtei Shiyasu.
Right. It'd be
because you're not going to ask. You can't be Nena on Shabbos itself. Just nobody
after Shabbos what to do.
On Motzi Shabbos.
What do you do with this?
Okay. He wants to say that will depend on Machos, Rashi, and Tosis.
Tosis. And you can't learn like that if you're learning that Rashi holds like the way the Rashba one.
Okay. Right, because Rashi essentially is like Tosis.
Basically the same thing. Because it'd be a
according to Rashi, according to nobody, everybody hold there'd be no B'Chtei Shiyasu because there's no Shem Yomer Lo at all. So there's no makom to be gozer and Isra Hana on Motzei Shabbos, except for by somebody that's a possibility you might ask him.
Yeah.
So that's what you see for the Pri Megadim. However, I think you see a different picture from the Shulchan Aruch himself, because the Shulchan Aruch in Shin Zayin Sifya Daled says Likros B'igeras Hashluchalo, if a goy brings a letter to you from outside the city, in any idea Mashakosaba Mutter V'Layikra B'Fi V'Layayimba V'Imhuva B'Shvil Michutz Tchum Tov Lizar Shalo Yigaba. The Shulchan Aruch passes that if it comes to Chutz Tchum, this would be an Isser of Muktzah, so you shouldn't even touch it. So the Mishnah Berurah brings down that the Achronim are all Machriya Neged the Shulchan Aruch. There is no Isser of Muktzah when it comes to Chutz Tchum. It doesn't create an Isser of Muktzah. There's no problem of touching it. However, he brings down that the Gra, Vilna Gaon, has a different problem, is that if you read the letter, then you're being Nene from Melachas Akum, that he brought it from Rishis Yachid to Rishis Rabin to Rishis Yachid. He brought it Chutz Tchum, he brought it Heli B'Shilo. You're being Nene from Melachas Goy. So that's the kasha of the Gra. So the Gra answers that Shulchan Aruch must be holding. Basically, he says it's telling Rashi and Tosos. If the Isser to be Nene from Malacha Shabbos is just an Isser Hana, you can't be Malacha Nene from the Ma'aser Shabbos that a Goy did. So then Taka, that's a good kasha. It should be Asr. However, the Shulchan Aruch must be holding, says the Gra, like Tosos, that the Isser is not, it's a Stam Isser Hana, it's an Isser Shemer Yomer Lo. And Shemer Yomer Lo is only shy by a Malacha that you might ask him to do it again. But you can never know that someone has a letter to send to you. In those days, there wasn't, the only way you knew there was a letter is when you got the letter. You didn't get an email that there's a letter on the way. You could ask the guy to do it, to bring it to you. So, so there's no Shemer Yomer Lo by a letter, because you have no idea who's going to send you the next letter, so you can never ask a guy, go bring me a letter. From who? There's the whole Shah, Shem Yomer Lo is not shaykh by a letter, says the Gra. Mainly that's why the Shulchan Aruch's Mekel over here, to be nene from the letter, to read the letter. Now, once we do away with the Isra Muktzah, then there's no Isra Hana either. Because the Isra Hana is only shaykh to be nene from something which Shem Yomer Lo, and that's not shaykh by a letter, says the Gra. But the Gra ends off then with a steer in Shulchan Aruch, because the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Kuf Tes Vav and Hachos Yom Tov, there the Shulchan Aruch paskins that a goy that did a malacha for you on Yom Tov Rishon is muter b'chtei shiyasu on Motzi Yom Tov Rishon. The Ramal brings down the to be machmer like Tosis that it's asur till Motzi Yom Tov Sheni. The Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rashi And the Mishnah Berurah brings that down over there, that he's passing like Rashi, that's mutter motzi yom tov rishon. And we said the pshat in Rashi is that the getter is an Isser Hana. And Isser Hana, as long as you're not nenim and Melechas Shabbos, Melechas Yom Tov, and Yom Tov Rishon, then it's mutter b'chtei shiatsu, even though it's Yom Tov Sheni. That's Shittas Rashi. So over there in Hilchos Yom Tov, he's going like Shittas Rashi. And over here, the only way to explain the Shulchan Aruch why the letter is mutter is he's going like Tosas, that it's Shem Yomer Lo. So he ends up with the stira in Shulchan Aruch. The Mishnah Berurah says that the Shulchan Aruch is being makel, but since the Gra made it totally in Rashi and Tosas, the whole have to be machmer as well. The whole have to be machmer over here. It's totally about Ashli Ravavi. Shouldn't be makel over here. So, yeah. What do you want to say?
I still think even according to Rashi, if you learn like the way the Rashba learns like Rashi, there's still a machlokas between Rashi and Tosas. Even though Rashi is learning. Even though if you'd say in Rashi's world, it's still stemming from the fact that Kadesh Yomalo, there's still an Isra no aspect to it. So, meaning that we know that Rashi is still going to hold that if something happened on Yom Tov Rishon, it's going to be mutter Yom Tov that night, as opposed to is not going to learn like that. Even if you learn that it's stemming from Kadesh Yomalo, right? It's not going to change. Correct?
Oh, what you're saying is very good. I'll tell you what.
Meaning, so like even the Prima Gadim, you could twist it. You could say that even Rashi, you're right, it's coming from Kadesh Yomerlo, but still, you could say that there's still an Isra Hana here. So even though you're right, we're not worried about the Kadesh Yomer, but there's still an Isra Hana. So you can't necessarily say the Prima Gadim is learning like the Rambam. I would say it could be like this also.
I think you're saying very good. What I was going to say is, I think it's what you mean. It's the same thing. Is that the Gra who asked this kasha and the steer in Shulchan Aruch, because the Gra makes the assumption that pshat in Rashi is just a straight up Isra Hana. It's not totally at all in Shem Yom Lo at all. It's just straight Isra Hana, like we learned from the Rambam. Therefore, it's taka steer in the Shulchan Aruch. If you hold like Rashi over there, then over here it should be Asr, because you're being nana from this malach was done on Shabbos. But if we say like the second shot, like the Rashba. So over there in Tafkut Tesvav, where there was a shaykhus of Shem Yomerlo, and therefore we gave the Isra Hana to it, and we were magdared as an Isra Hana. So that Isra Hana is over after Yom Tov Rishon, and it was going like Rashi. Shulchan Aruch over here also could be passing like Rashi. It's not a steer in Shulchan Aruch. He holds like Rashi, but Rashi himself is not going to be gozer Isra Hana where there's no shaykhus of Shem Yomerlo. Like the Rashba himself said, that in a place where there's no Shem Yomerlo, like a Jew that cooked b'shogeg, then there's no Isra Hana either on it. So that's why every Jew could be nana from it, even on Shabbos when the Jew cooked it on b'shogeg. That's the way we paskin actually Mikra did. So it's not a steer in Shulchan Aruch. It's not totally in Machos Rashi and Tosas like we were all saying. The Shulchan Aruch is not a steer. He's really Rashi all the way through. Just that Rashi himself would be makel over here. There's no Isra Hana because there's no shaykhus of Shem Yomerlo. And therefore, even what the Biur Halacha says over there, that Hayotzi Midavarinu, that since the Gra makes it totally in Rashi and Tosas, and the Shulchan Aruch over here is going over here like Tosas, but according to Rashi, would taka be Asar. So. And therefore we should be machmer, unless it's mamish a tzarach gadol. I'm saying that according to what we're saying, then it's a lot easier to go with the Shulchan Aruch. Lulei the Mishnah Berurah, the Shulchan Aruch's psak is kayam even according to Rashi. It's not totally in that machlokas, and therefore there's no room lahachmir either, and because Rashi is masking that it'd be mutter according to this. And so Yotzei Miadvarim is that it comes out to be a major machlokas between the pshat in the Shulchan Aruch, pshat in Rashi, and the two study we said comes out now to be machlokas between the Prima Gadim and the Gra on one side, and the Shulchan Aruch on the other side. According to the Gra and the Prima Gadim, Rashi holds that the Isra Hana is a straight Isra Hana, and we don't look at Shem Yomerlo; it's just a straight Isra Hana. And whereas according to the Shulchan Aruch, Rashi himself is like the Rashba is built on Shem Yomerlo. And if in a case where there is no Shem Yomerlo, there's also no Isra Hana to begin with. and that's why according to Shulchan Aruch, you can read the letter. You can be nene from that malacha the goy did, even according to Rashi, because there's no Shem Yomerlo by bringing another letter. So this two studim in Rashi is a major machlokas Rishonim Achronim, or Gedol, we'll call it Gedolei Achronim in Pshat. I was going to speak about another prop, but I think I might leave this for next time because I'll just throw it out as a question, because it really would take us into a whole nother sugya. And did everybody see, I sent this a package of Marmakomos. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see that stuff yet or not, because I guess we'll talk about it next week. The Shuvas from Shlomo Zalman and Ramosha and Rav Yashiv and all the things I sent out. Everybody got that?
Received it, but I didn't get a chance to look at it yet.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to look at it. We got it though.
Okay, I figured probably just people wouldn't have a chance yet, so we'll make that. Then we'll talk about that next week, Mitzvah Hashem, because it's going to really take us to the. I'll just throw this out to pay special attention to the bottom of Tosfos and this chiluk that he said between here and why is it not a steer between our sugya and the sugya of Nochash Shabbat Lechabos, whether the Yisod is to be nene from the Guf Yisrael to be nene from the Lachos Nachri or not. And so I sent the Ritva and the Chodesh Aran with that they say a different teretz. You look carefully that they talk about the Isser, that the chiluk is not Guf or not Guf. The chiluk is if you're being nene from what he did, or if it's just a siluk of a mazik. You're just being misalik. The goy just was misalik, davar hamazik, but it wasn't actually. So I think if you take careful attention to those two, to Tosas and what Tosas really means and what that means, and then we'll try to relate that to all those chuvas and all those shilas about the key, the mafeach, just to make sure that you see. Tosas over here doesn't quote it, but Tosas, the end of the big Tosas, he quotes the Gemara of Mashki Achav Yisrael, the next Tosas. So he brings a Gemara in Yevamos. So I guess together with those Marmakomas, really need to see the next Tosas, the bottom of this Tosas, the next Tosas, and the Gemara in Yevamos that he brings down over there by if you forgot the key to the shul and the Rosh Hashanah, and a kid brings the key inside the Rosh Hashanah to the Shus Yochid, can you open the door or not, or can you go in the shul, etc. So that with this last Tosas, the big Tosas, and those Marmakovas, then we'll see how it all ties together and what's the real understanding of the getter of to be nene from when you can or cannot be nene, and what's the chiluk between kibui and over here, which will have ramifications to hotel rooms, and you'll see there if a guy opens the hotel room with an electronic key, are you allowed to go into the room anymore now, or can you be nene from what's inside the room if you couldn't have before that without the opening of the electronic key, etc. A lot of very chashuv and nafkumin is the ma'aser. Very geshmaka things. We'll see. It all starts with the Magen Avram that Rosh Shlomo Zalman quotes, and you'll see he brings it down in the very beginning of Ospez that I sent you out in the Shlomo. That Magen Avram. If you look for that Magen Avram, it's the one he quotes there. It's the very, very end of the Magen Avram. It's a long. You have to see the whole thing. It's all about muktzah. At the very end, the Magen Avram says the chiddush that he says about if you dig out, liftos, you have gourds or whatever that are buried in the ground, and the guy digs it out on Shabbos for you, or Yom Tov. Can you be nene from those gourds or those what are they called? What are those white roots called? Not gourds. They're called in English. Liftos, whatever. The things are dug in the ground. Huh?
Turnips.
Turnips. Thank you. So yeah. so that Magen Ram is really what everything's Mesuva around. The turnips existed. He didn't create the turnips, but they weren't accessible to you. They were underground in a way that would be a malacha to get them out. So the guy dug them out. Can I be netted from those turnips or not? And what the Magen Ram says, that's really opens the door to this whole thing of if a guy is really creating something for you, or he's just taking away something that's in the way of you being nena. Then does that relate to the kibui or not? To putting out a fire, and now I have what's in the house. So we'll try to keep all these thoughts in mind. Okay. So have a good Shabbos.
Thank you. Be good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
Good job. Thank you.
Hopefully.